Welcome to this episode of the GymInformer podcast. I'm Chris Gilbert, your host for this episode, and today our guest is Lawrence Jacobs, the owner of the Chicago Barbell Compound. This is a really cool powerlifting gym, hybrid bodybuilding gym just outside of Chicago, right near O'Hare Airport. It was super badass. I'm really excited to talk to Lawrence about it. But before we get started, let me take a pause and I'll show you the photos I took when I was at the gym. All right, Lawrence, how did you go about, like, what was your process of becoming a gym owner?
Started doing CrossFit for fitness. I was running some marathons for a number of years, and I started doing CrossFit. And initially, I got into it just to help people move better, live a healthier lifestyle. And we raised that business up, and it was actually me and my business partner. And luckily, we had set up shop right next to the infamous Barbell Compound at the time, and that was 11 years ago. And we got to see a thriving culture over there of power lifters and bodybuilders, and also build our community in the CrossFit facility that I owned. And the owner of that business had kind of soiled things with the building and put himself in a bind, and ultimately we ended up purchasing half the space and half the equipment, and eventually turning into the Chicago Barbell Compound and making it a larger business as it is now.
Okay, cool. How big was it when you took it over, and how big is it now?
It was I'd say about almost maybe 3,500, 4,000 square foot. And we've doubled the size since then, doubled the members, and added a lot more value to the facility.
Okay, cool. So you only have 9,000 square feet?
It might be a little more now. That when you came, actually, we had just expanded a little bit, so it might be closer to 10, but it's not quite 10.
Wow, it seems so much bigger than that when you walk through it. It just really seems like a big gym.
Yeah, all the time people come in and they're like, wow, this place never stops. It's in this huge commercial building, and we've managed to have room to expand into other rooms, and then kind of, have different kind of, themes for each room. But yeah, it's a lot of space, a lot of machines, a lot of area to cover for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I think I said so in the review. I was like, when you walk in, you're like, okay, this is a cool gym. And then you turn the corner, you're like, oh, this is really cool. And you're like, oh, there's another room. Like, oh, this is pretty badass. And there's another room. Damn, this gym is cool.
Yeah. We take pride in what we offer. We're actually in Chicago. A lot of gyms make claims to being in Chicago. So we're in Chicago. We're in the last neighborhood, right before the suburbs. And we've always tried to cater to multiple types of athletes. We do have a powerlifting area. We do have a strongman area. And then we've got our different machines for bodybuilders and general fitness goers all throughout the facility.
Now, to get into the equipment, like, what you have from a powerlifting standpoint just makes sense. I mean, powerlifting gyms, there's not really a question about what goes into that section. But from the bodybuilding section, or the accessory movement area, the bodybuilding area, old school equipment, like, you guys have some really cool old school pieces in there. How do you guys decide, like, what's going in the gym?
Yeah, it's tough, man. There's so much competition out there when it comes to equipment, and people are making all kinds of different duplicates of old machines. And I was fascinated with the old school side of things. I am 47, so I was more intrigued about the history of the movement side of things. And if you ask most bodybuilders, the best equipment was the older equipment, the generations of Nautilus. And now they have a lot of new stuff, but the back in the day, I mean, Nautilus was the cream of the crop. And they've changed over the years. They've gone from chain driven to belt driven equipment. Now there's Med-X equipment, and people love that line. There's so many other types of lines for different, like Pendulum and Watson. And I think it's been challenging to learn all of the stuff that comes with it, the history. And it depends on who you're asking, right? You ask the old school guys and they love the old school equipment because nothing moves like it. You ask the new school guys and they want some fancy new equipment that is from Arsenal strength, right? And it's a difference of opinions. I think initially we wanted to stick to the core of what we do, and that's kind of old school gritty equipment. And that's kind of what we stick with. Every now and then we might throw a piece in that's a little newer, but it's just always been the theme of our facility. So I'm not going to go out and buy necessarily a $4,000 Arsenal strength piece when I would rather buy something that's similar to that movement, but in my opinion moves better. That's old school. Now it may still be $3,000-$4,000, but it's not Arsenal strength.
Yeah, it's crazy how much the old school equipment has come up in price because it's becoming so popular.
Yeah, before COVID, say that a lot nowadays. You could find these old school pieces for relatively moderate prices. Some were cleaner than others. And then there was that moment where everything was gold during COVID because everyone was trying to get all the equipment they could. In fact, I think you could get pounds of equipment, not necessarily machines. It was priced higher than gold, actually, in real life, the market. But, now, even now, like there's only about 5 to 7 actual, we'll call them, guys that get this, they acquire the equipment, this old school equipment, and they refurbish it. And then they sell it back out there on the market on Instagram and through their different connections. And, even those guys now, they're marking their stuff up. Pieces are going for $4,000 to $7,000. You're hard pressed to find a good piece for less than $2,500 or $3,000. And then there's the concept of you have to ship it generally if you're not going to drive 10 hours to go pick it up. And a lot of these pieces are in Florida. A lot of them are in California and out west. So it's you really have to make moves to go get these older, finer pieces.
Yeah, you really got to be willing to just like jump in your truck, hook up your trailer, and go on the road sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially with the amount of equipment you have and some of the really cool old school pieces that you have. So it's an accomplishment to be able to put together that many pieces. So
yeah, and they don't remake them anymore. So the guys who have them, they have them in their old garage barns or in the basements in Wisconsin or wherever else in the Midwest. They're not getting rid of it until they're getting rid of it.
Yeah. No, those pieces are cool. And yours, all of your pieces are in really good shape. So that's another like big to do. But go back to something you just said. You mentioned grit. And that was something I thought was really cool about your gym. Like it's a clean gym. So whenever I say it's got grit, it's not dirty. It's a very clean gym, but it definitely has a certain amount of grit to it to kind of lends to that old school bodybuilding, powerlifting gym atmosphere. Is that something you guys were going for?
Yeah, when we moved into the space, there was a lot of old school power lifters, and there was bodybuilders as well. Obviously, I mean, we've had some of the best bodybuilders in the world train at our facility, but there was old school raw power lifters, guys that just didn't give up about anything. And there's a certain, I was attracted to kind of that, like that cussing and slamming weights and that raw side of powerlifting. And they were in there wrecking house. Like any given day you'd go in there and there'd be some crazy hard metal and dudes just swearing back and forth and throwing around the weights when it comes to powerlifting. And initially it wasn't really a complete shock. I did grow up in a Gold's Gym down in Florida that was a little bit gritty as well, but seeing it, I was like, man, that's the kind of mentality this gym has. And we wanted to kind of keep that, but even the sport has changed. You know, these guys all followed, you know, old school power lifters that have now passed away. And, you know, they had coaches like, you know, Laura Sweat, and, you know, they just, it was a different kind of atmosphere, and it was hard to keep that. And obviously it's changed over the years. Powerlifting is still, it still has a lot of that, but not as much as it used to, because all those guys are kind of getting older and they're broken. So you can't really keep the atmosphere if they're kind of heading out of the sport. But so as the years pass and we've kind of revamped the gym, now we still have we have a lot more power lifters, but it's not quite the same atmosphere. I mean, a lot of them are competitors, right? There's so many federations with WRPF, USAPL, you know, USPA, and it's a sport. So they're still very raw and aggressive, but there are a lot of younger guys competing in the sport.
Yeah, no, and that's super cool. And you can tell, I mean, your gym is definitely one that like would like bring people that really want to be serious about what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great atmosphere for training. Everybody lifts each other up. You know, you need spotters. Obviously people are videoing when they do these big lifts, and there's a lot of energy, and especially in that front room where we try to, right when you walk in the door, we try to establish like, look, this is the energy you're getting in this gym. And, you know, if it's not for you, then it's not the right gym for you. You need to find another facility.
Yeah, and with that grittiness and that hardcore feel, I talked to probably a half a dozen members when I was there that day, and everybody was super friendly. Do you feel like there are things that you guys have done as owners to try to like create that hardcore feel, but also a friendly environment where all the members are like rooting for each other and friendly to each other and welcoming to new people? And
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I think that the sport's changed for powerlifting, and in a lot of ways for bodybuilding as well. So we own literally the CrossFit gym right next door, and I think the initial culture shock was two CrossFit gym owners coming in here and trying to buy a gritty, powerful gym, you know. And I
yeah,
think they thought maybe we were bringing whatever they thought we were bringing. And the truth is, we're businessmen at the end of the day, but we really
right,
I wanted to build the sport and build the culture in the gym in a not necessarily in a different way. So obviously buying better equipment, cleaning it up a bit. I think they saw that, you know, we meant business when it came to creating an environment so people can excel in each sport or whatever goals they have, right? They're not all
right,
powerlifters and bodybuilders. Some are just in there for the mental side of fitness, the aesthetics. And at the end of the day, as long as we can help people kind of chase those goals or hit those goals, then I think that the job is achieved. So again, that we bring a friendly kind of environment to the space. And I think that's helpful. I mean, if they need something, they just got to tell us. We've got an open communication line with our clients. You know, obviously that brings a lot of complaints as well. But we do our best to accommodate and try to fix things and keep things working well. And I think at the end of the day, I think we do that really well.
yeah, that's awesome. And I think coming from a CrossFit environment gives you kind of a unique um, mindset or circumstance. Like, I'm not a CrossFitter. It wouldn't be something I would want to go do, but I do have the utmost respect for the environment and the culture that gets created in CrossFit gyms.
Yeah, at
And
the end of the day, I think everyone's got their own goals. You know, a CrossFit facility is different, obviously, in a lot of ways. Most people who've never stepped into a facility, and every facility is different, right? Even in the CrossFit space, there are trash CrossFit gyms. I mean,
I'm sure.
trash. I'll be the first to tell you, I've dropped into some of these gyms, and, you know, it's the owners, right? It's the way they
Right.
run their business, and they're entitled to do that because it's their business. At our facility, over the last 11, 12 years, we've ran it a certain way, and it's been fun and enjoyable helping people. I mean, helping clients lose 100 pounds, 50 pounds,
That's
hitting
awesome.
lifts they've never hit before, you know, Olympic lifts or, you know,
Mhm.
basic strength lifts like, you know, squats and deadlifts, like all of that stuff transfers into, you know, the Chicago Barbell Compound. It's the same thing at the end of the day. I think people just forget that because they get caught up in whatever their niche is or their goal is. And
Right.
that's all they think about, which is fine. That's understandable.
No, I totally get that. And you're right. Like I've been it is all about the owners. Like I've been to bodybuilding gyms and powerlifting gyms that you just look around and you're like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
I mean, some gyms that could be amazing and they're just not being maintained well, or they're just not, they have a bunch of old school equipment that's falling apart,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
So
I think we try to keep it real with our clients too, right? Like we give them space. I don't know of another gym where the members get to control the music, and that is, by the way, that's challenging at times as
I
well.
think you can imagine.
But we've got iPads in the different rooms so that they, and when that song ends, if you want to change the music, change the music. So there's all kinds of different types of music. Now, of course, a lot of people have their own headphones on, but I don't know of another gym where owners allow that sort of thing. Like, and then on top of that, like, we're minimally staffed. This
Mhm.
is a culture that has been created that in some ways manages itself. If you were to walk into this gym and you were mistreating the equipment or you were bringing people in without being asked, you might get checked by another member. Like, and that's cool because that's you controlling your culture, like taking care of the people that are in your facility, and it's also looking out for us. And I think it speaks to the way we run our business that people are willing to do that. Of course, people try to take advantage of us every now and then, but we find out and then we handle it.
Yeah, I
So
was
hopefully
actually
it
just
works well.
yeah, I was actually just talking about that. I was on someone else's podcast last night and they were talking to me about different things about gyms, and I was actually just talking about that exact thing, that when the owners are active, when the owners are demonstrating to the members that they care about the gym, the members of the gym will care about the gym and they will control what's going on there even when the owners aren't there, because they care, because they know the owner cares, and they're not about to allow anything to happen that's going to mess up the place they love to work out.
Yeah, I mean these are adults. There's a lot of gym owners out there that are, in my opinion, narcissistic. They think that these are like their family members. There's a certain amount of control that they want to have. As a business owner, there is a certain amount of control you should have, but you have
Mhm.
to consider the fact that these are human beings. These are adults. They do some weird stuff sometimes. I'm just going to be honest.
Right.
We all know human beings can be weird sometimes, but
Mhm.
if you give them the respect that they deserve and you treat them like adults, men and women, I think they respect you a lot more for that.
Oh, 100%. I would definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about like what you do well and some of the great things about the gym. Is there anything or some things that you feel like you could be doing better?
Oh, the list is long, my friend, that I could do better. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I was a union carpenter for 4 or 5 years in Chicago before I decided to take just jump off the deep end and open a CrossFit facility. I now own another facility as well, another CrossFit facility. So I have three facilities, and at the end of the day, being a better business owner, being a better, mentor, being a better coach, being a better leader is something I strive for every day. I read leadership books because I know that people are looking at me, they're watching me, whatever the case may be. When it comes to um, making sure that we have somewhere else to go as a facility, it's a constant battle. And it's one of those things like the gym industry. Look, there's a 1%, just like there's a 5% of this country that kind of run the money when it comes to building, in this industry. And I don't really consider myself a 1%, but I do think that we do a great job. But that when it comes to doing things better, I mean, you always got to think about where are we going to go next with this gym, this facility. How are we going to cater to the different sports? You got to constantly keep up with the high end barbells and the high end kilo plates? And is there enough room for the amount of members you have for each sport? Do you have the right equipment? And
Hmm.
I don't think it ever ends. I just think you have to continue to get better and improve. And sadly, with inflation and the way things go from that side of things, prices sometimes have to continually go up. And that's a weakness we have. We haven't raised our prices. We're probably the least expensive facility in Chicago and in surrounding suburbs when it comes to what we offer, right?
Hmm.
And as a business owner, entrepreneur, it's like one of those things like how far do you want to step into the the lion's den by increasing rates and putting certain restrictions in place on your members, because it does cause you to lose members and lose clients and lose revenue. So at the end of the day, I think my biggest weakness for me is being a better business owner, right? We don't have a problem paying for cleaners. That's never an issue. We don't have a problem, making sure that the equipment is spaced out and it's working. That's always done as quickly as possible, and I'd like to believe we do it pretty quickly. But switching out equipment for new equipment, because you do have to sometimes.
Right.
Making sure, where am I going to go next? Am I going to expand again? Am I going to look for a bigger facility? That's something we think about every day, because for our personal goals as business owners and what we want to offer our clients, we're just not there yet. Like, we want more room for more power lifters. We want to be, one of the best facilities in the country when it comes to powerlifting, and it comes to, and it's all relative, right? At the end of the day, but if I have 50 to 100 power lifters, which I do, do I have enough combo racks? And I don't think I do. Do I have enough kilo plates? I don't think I do. Do I have enough space for them to make sure that they can do everything they need to do for the sport? I don't think I do. And at the end of the day, like, that's a weakness.
No, that's a really good answer. You kind of answered like my next question. My next question was, what's next for Chicago Barbell Compound? And you kind of went into that a little bit.
Yeah, I think, we looked at a 13,000 square foot space the other day. It's the first time we've done that in the 8 years that we've owned this facility. And the goal obviously is to combine two facilities in one. It's not far from here, so that's exciting for any of our members, because they don't got to drive very far. One thing about our facility is it's more like a neighborhood facility. People come in and they're like, we didn't even know you were here. And we don't want everyone to know we're there, to be frank. We have a lot of members, and we want to keep it so that it's special for the clients that we have, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, and I think on the horizon, we need more kilos, so we're trying to do that for them. We're trying to create more of a unified facility, even if we stay here. Having a facility where CrossFit is just something that happens in the facility. Right now it's a separate business, but we'd love for that just to be classes, because we get people all the time that come into Chicago Barbell and they have health goals. It's not about the sport, and group fitness is a great solution.
Oh yeah.
For that client. And I think providing a better product for that is something we want to do in the future. And then obviously providing a better product for our current clients, because I don't ever want them to feel crowded. I don't ever want them to feel like they don't have the right equipment to hit their goals. And we just, that's the big part of that is communication. We're not afraid to hear the good and bad. Sometimes they're afraid to tell us, which is a shame, because we want to hear it. But we're not afraid to reach out and say, dude, what can we do better? Like, tell us. And then they tell us a lot. And then we try to get 1% of that, because you can never do it all at once, but we do the best we can.
But I think the fact that they don't want to tell you things is almost more of a credit to you than a disservice.
Yeah.
If people are unhappy with their gym, they're all kinds of ready to complain. If they're pretty happy with their gym, but there's something that could be a little bit better, they really don't want to complain about it.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I got to say, one thing about CrossFit, powerlifting, bodybuilding is the people who are really serious about, and strongman, I wasn't even mentioning strongman, like strongman as well. The people who are serious about those, I need a big area for them. They have multiple gym memberships. Like, people are going to multiple gyms to change up the scenery from every now and then, and they're not even canceling their other gym membership. Like, we're talking about serious athletes and competitors that love their respective sports. And yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I know people who have 3 or 4 different memberships because they train legs at one gym and back at a different gym and chest at a third gym. And and maybe they go to a fitness center because there's a big variety of cardio there, and they don't like doing cardio in their bodybuilding gym.
Or they just want to swim somewhere, and they just have a swim membership somewhere, right? So we have a recovery room here now, so we have a lot of things that we offer to our clients.
That's awesome. Now, the last question we always ask gym owners is, Now, you've owned multiple different kinds of gyms and multiple gyms. Is there any advice that you would have to someone who's thinking about owning a gym or wants to own a gym?
Well, I think the biggest thing I could say is, you know, I took a risk because I knew in my core that having a job wasn't necessarily the path that I wanted. It wasn't that I didn't get along. I can follow just as easily as I can lead. So having a boss isn't the reason I quit being an employee.
Right.
I just realized that I didn't want to spend 25 to 30 years in the same job around the same people. And it didn't really give me a chance to be creative and do what I love to do, which is work with people. I think to open a gym, you have to understand that you're in customer service. You know, you are a therapist, whether you like it or not. You are, you like right now, I own 3 jobs. I literally, and you know why? Because at the end of the day, only one of those businesses is actually scalable. So if you're going to get into this space and you're going to open a gym, be prepared to get into the trenches and eat, sleep, and breathe everything that is fitness when it comes to these facilities. I'm up every day at 4 a.m. almost 6 days a week, usually, sometimes 7, right? Sometimes I don't get to bed before 11, which isn't a lot of sleep, right? And it's the minute you get here, like, it's not for the, it's not for the weak. You got to come in ready with the mentality to deal with 100 people in a day and each individual situation. I think you don't want to go into debt for these businesses. I think you start small, but you always make room for expansion, because that's important, right? If you're going to grow, you need to make sure that you can expand. And if it's in one space, that's even better, right? Because then you can just not keep moving things.
Yeah.
I think you have to be somebody who's patient, someone who is obviously friendly, outgoing, willing to take on whatever issues others may have with you. And you have to be open to feedback at the end of the day. Lots of it, lots and lots of feedback.
Those are all really good suggestions. Appreciate you coming on, and thank you for your time. The gym was super awesome. I can't believe I almost missed it, because you guys aren't overly Google searchable.
Yeah, no, we're not.
So luckily Instagram, like, I found you on Instagram, so it's a badass gym. I'm glad I got to see it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you taking the time, man. This was I really enjoyed this. I love talking about this facility. It's actually the first podcast I've ever done. All these other gym owners in the area, for the most part, I know them. There's always a little bit of business to business kind of competition, but we're all different in our own ways. But I think we're all special in our own ways too. So I really appreciate you taking the time and giving me the opportunity to talk about what we have here.
Oh, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Definitely.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more great content.